We're off and running on a Wednesday evening as we are 25 hours away from the Sweet 16 starting. First game, well, logically, it would be in Los Angeles. Why wouldn't it be? That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. Sweet 16 tomorrow. Major League Baseball opening day tomorrow. Jaden Daniels, pro day today. More pro days still to come as the week goes on, including Drake Mays on Thursday. It is a busy time across the sports landscape. A little bit of line movement in the Sweet 16 games. We will continue our breakdown of those games. We'll have our confidence picks, which fortunately for us, we did not tell you about our second round plays. We'll just give you an update. It was bad, but fortunately we didn't say those on the air. Mr. Von Tobel, how are you, sir? As we also will preview the National League. You have a couple National League bets?
Yeah, I got some stuff cooking for you. We can discuss that. It's a full slate in the NBA as well. I think we got like 9-ish games or something like that. I lost count. Absolutely fantastic, and a lot of games that are very important, so can't wait to find out what's going to happen there. It's a busy time, man. I can't wait, and I cannot wait for tomorrow. Starts at 10 a.m.
Maybe.
No, that's a good point.
Rain could be in the forecast for the Mets and Brewers opener, which opens baseball. I know all of you are wondering and worrying. Are we going to get the one season play from yours truly?
Actually, it's already been postponed, I believe.
Has it really?
I think so. Let me double check.
I will have my one season play and my one season win total. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that.
Bummer. Both Brewers, Mets, and Braves, Phillies has been postponed.
All games should be started either at dome stadiums or in the South or in L.A.
It's been ruined. The day's been ruined.
JVT is already sad. He is already bummed out. Brad Evans going to join the program here in less than 15 minutes. We'll talk to Mike Golick Jr. Also in this hour, J.J. McCarthy's number one fan and believer, Thor Nystrom, hour two, a Major League Baseball preview with Mike Farron of SiriusXM's MLB Network will join us in hour two as well. So it is a very loaded slate, a lot of games to get to. I want to start with this real quickly because earlier in the week, I asked you, what's more likely to happen? The Bucks beat the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, or they lose before getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. Last night, as we sat here, and before we signed off, it looked like, well, the Bucks were well on their way to a easy victory over a Los Angeles Lakers team without LeBron James. Shouts to Dustin Swedelson as D'Angelo Russell now 10 for 10 on over-assist props when LeBron James does not play. And then I get home, and we got ourselves a game, and we go to double overtime, and the Los Angeles Lakers knock off the Milwaukee Bucks. Blip, one-off, bigger concern for the Bucks. What did you make, as I know you rewatched the game again this morning, of the Bucks' home loss as a 9.5-point favorite against a Lakers team that did not have LeBron James? Oh, by the way, this is the second time they have lost to the Los Angeles Lakers in the past month without LeBron James.
Yeah, I think when you watched it yesterday, what was kind of annoying was twofold, but really it was the offensive execution for the Milwaukee Bucks. If you go by the NBA tracking data, Tim, they averaged a half point per possession in the fourth quarter. Not very good. And when you watched them in the fourth quarter, it wasn't really good offensive execution. It was Chris Middleton, post up. All right, let's do a fadeaway jumper from right around the elbow. Damian Lillard, let's just pull up immediately and try to hit a three and gain all this momentum back. Giannis Antetokounmpo had 3 turnovers in the span of like 90 seconds in the fourth quarter.
And missed 2 free throws that would have cut it to 1. Or tied the game.
Yeah, and like it was abysmal offensive execution in the midst of blowing that lead in the fourth quarter because their defensive rating in the fourth quarter was actually 103.8. It was fine. It was solid. And so when you look at what happened yesterday in the midst of blowing that game, it was a team that still really had no answers for, okay, they're starting to come back here, so how do you maintain this lead on offense? And don't get me wrong, there were still some terrible defensive plays. It's funny, I don't know if you listen to the broadcast like at all or anything. So during the broadcast at one point, they bring up a report in which Damian Lillard got upset. I don't remember which game it was, but Doc Rivers tried to play some defense, and he had pulled Damian Lillard, and he got into an argument with him. Said, don't ever do that again, right? I'm Damian Lillard. I'm going to continue to do this. Well, with 1:11 left in the fourth quarter, he's playing off Austin Reeves, and doesn't even look at him. And Reeves is like, all right. And he bombs a three-pointer in his face. And Damian Lillard's not even doing anything. He's just standing there. And so it was like all these little things together. But for me, the big one, outside of the 2 overtimes, it was just the fourth quarter and blowing that lead, because it was funny. I don't know if you ever go back and rewatch games and sit there, especially the big comebacks. And I'm watching this, Tim, and I'm going like, when does the comeback start? Like, it started late. I'm like, when is this meltdown going to happen? And the fact that it happened the way that it did with the poor offensive execution, that to me is the troubling sign, because when you see, like, we'll expand this out in a big picture, right? What is Doc Rivers known for outside of being a guy who has had quite a few good teams? It's being unable to maintain series leads. And in a bigger picture, that also leads to, blowing some of these games. And the fact that your offensive execution in that fourth quarter was so bad, and that ultimately led to you losing that game, that's, I think, the troublesome sign is you should, at this point right now, have the ability to execute a fourth quarter offense that you're going to be able to maintain a lead and win a game. And the fact that they would just devolved into turnovers, mid-range jumpers, quick triggers in possessions where you were still holding a lead, trying to get momentum back very clearly, that just does not bode well for you as a team as you move forward. So they looked good. You're not going to use this game as a big picture, right? And I think it's also just it just happens to be a coincidence that it happened against the Los Angeles Lakers, right? Again, the way you lose to them. And we should give the Lakers credit. Austin Reeves was awesome in this game, especially on defense, and multiple big plays defensively in the fourth quarter. How about Anthony Davis hitting, I think, 2 threes in the fourth quarter to help them get back into this game as well? So all of those things led to this. But I think, to me, that's the big one, is you can't be that bad on offense, especially in a game where you hold that lead, where you led by 12 late in the fourth quarter. You ultimately blew it and lost in double overtime.
Still have a 2-game lead, the Bucks do, over the Cavaliers for the second playoff spot. Obviously, the Boston Celtics will indeed grab the number 1 spot in the Eastern Conference. As for the Lakers, now 40-32. This is an interesting note that was pointed out on Twitter today. Lakers play the Grizzlies tonight. LeBron is expected to play in this game after sitting out last night. They're just 3-9, JVT, on back-to-backs, the second leg of back-to-backs. 3-9 ATS, that is. So when you look at this spot, LeBron's returning, so that is beneficial. The market has bet the Memphis Grizzlies here a little bit. I do see a 4 out there at one particular spot. Any thought on the Lakers here coming off of a double overtime game on the road, now headed to Memphis? But you do get the caveat of LeBron James didn't play last night, and he will be back in the lineup tonight.
Yeah, and I think really it's just whether or not Anthony Davis is going to play, because he was limping around yesterday, hyperextended the knee, so we'll see if that's going to be something here that'll affect it. And I think you hit it right, which is, all right, the vast majority of your guys are going through a double overtime, then flipping this back around and playing a Memphis team that is going to try to grind you down and try to slow this and make it somewhat uncomfortable. But your best player is going to be pretty fresh considering the fact that he didn't play yesterday. So I think when you look at the Lakers, given the fact that LeBron James is going to be healthy and ready to go, I think you can operate with the assumption that as long as you have him out there, you're going to be operating at a pretty good level, and I would assume that's going to be the case. And you do wonder for Memphis, you get like Brandon Clark back today, it seems. So like that's going to be pretty big, making his season debut, how much that helps. But I thought the number was pretty much right where you wanted it to be. If you thought one way or the other, I think it would probably be Lakers or nothing here against the Memphis Grizzlies.
We will get to JVT's best bets a little bit later on in the hour. By the way, we're always free. First hour of the program on YouTube, youtube.com/VSiN Live tomorrow and Friday. Very much looking forward to that first hour of the show as we get you ready for the Sweet 16 games that will start just shortly after 7 o'clock in the East. But as JVT mentioned, full slate of NBA action. 3 best bets from Mr. Von Tobel, his right up there on VSiN.com. We'll get a little baseball preview, some baseball season bets coming up in hour number 2. Mike Golick Jr. going to join us in this hour. Brad Evans as well to get us ready for the Sweet 16. Speaking of the Sweet 16, JVT will have our confidence picks a little bit later on. I don't know, maybe those should be not very confident picks based off of the performances that we had in the second round. But as we sit here, I did throw in another bet last night. You've heard it been said, I'll say it again, Sweet 16, like we do in the NFL. This is the tightest these lines will ever be. Doesn't mean you can't beat them. Doesn't mean you shouldn't bet them. But just, pointing that out, that it's hard to find an edge in these particular games. But as we've continued to dissect and look at these games, for me, my first bet was Houston, -3.5. It's up to 4. We'll see if it goes to 4.5. But anything anything else as you've continued to dive into this that you've had a little bit more conviction in? Your initial bets were early on. You laid it with UConn. You're on Iowa State, and what was your third? Purdue.
Purdue.
So anything else lead you to get to the account?
No, I think I'm going to probably go to bat with these three. I'll say this. We're starting to, we see maybe 1 or 2 sixes pop up for Marquette against NC State. If the market decides to head in that direction, and we get 5.5-ish with Marquette, I might get tempted to kind of jump in there on that team. But I think outside of that, I think these are going to be the squads that I'll probably end up rolling with here. Those three: Iowa State, UConn, and Purdue. And we'll see what other opportunities arise here in the next couple of days as most of the action comes in and the market really starts to take shape.
Yeah, there is going to be one more game that I have thrown in as a best bet. We'll give that out a little bit later on in the hour. But as I continue to stare at it, that was where I ultimately landed with another play. Market movement today, not a ton. Actually, North Carolina now a consensus 4.5. I even saw a 5 pop up there. So money coming in on UNC in this spot. No real other movements. I guess Purdue now out to a consensus 5.5. So a move there. You grabbed that early on in the process. So sharp card to you on that particular.
I also laid 2 though with Iowa State. So
that quiet. That's all right. Mike Golick Jr. What does he make of some pro day film, including? Brad Evans. He's next. I bet.
This is VSiN PrimeTime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We keep it rolling. It is VSiN PrimeTime. We're presented by DraftKings live here in Las Vegas, Nevada. The calm before the storm. Opening day, JVT, tomorrow. You're very excited for it. And the Sweet 16 gets rolling tomorrow. And I know our next guest, baby, he can't wait for his beloved ILL. Illinois Fighting Illini to hit the court tomorrow against Iowa State. He is Brad Evans, so you can follow him on Twitter at NoisyWavos, thegamingjuice.com. All right, I'm going to let you two boys at it because this guy right here, Mr. Von Tobel, he's wearing that red for Iowa State. He's going to be drinking Busch Lights like crazy. You, sir, wearing orange, even though not personally right now, but I know in your brain it's all orange. Go at it. Why Illinois? Why Iowa State? Go.
Well, yeah, let me give you the statement on why Illinois I think is going to win this game. First and foremost, they are the number 1 ranked offense in the country, according to every advanced analytic that is out there. Number 1 in adjusted offensive efficiency, looking at KenPom specifically. And I think the advantage they have in this game is they generate a ton of second chance opportunities, right around 35% of their possessions. You look at Iowa State, over the last month, they are number 294 nationally in defensive rebounding percentage. And on top of that, Illinois, they don't have a true point guard, but I think Coleman Hawkins going to be bringing the ball up the floor quite often in this game at 6'10". And I know Iowa State loves to run a lot of that half-court trap action. If they do that, he's the type of guy that can see over that trap, find the open and extra man. Maybe there's another pass, and it's a kiss off the glass or a splishy splash from 3. I think Illinois just firing all cylinders right now offensively. No knock against Iowa State. They're an outstanding defensive team, but I don't think they have the scoring chops to keep up with my beloved orange and blue. So what is going to be a nip and tuck affair, I think Illinois, maybe on the very last possession, wins, though not in convincing fashion.
Wow. All right. I like it. Yeah. My argument, you used part of it too, right? Which was the lack of a true point guard, this backcourt, and the ability to force turnovers, use those turnovers to get into easy buckets. I think that this team's also, and you can make the point, Brad, that for both of these squads, they've both been one of the most underrated, or both have been some of the most undervalued teams at the window all season long. Iowa State's covered at about a 70% clip so far this season. Illinois has been covering it at a 62% clip this season. For me, it's about stubbornness. I've been riding this Iowa State team for a while, and I think some matchups work in their favor. But either way, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So let's go over some of your other plays that you're going to have here. Walk us through same game parlay that you've got together for UConn at San Diego State, because I am of the mindset that the Huskies are going to absolutely stomp these fools out.
Yeah, and I think they're going to win in convincing fashion as well. But I'm going to live in the middle on the spread and try to get this at even juice. And so what I did on the SGP, and again, I love to live in the middle. Wrote about the strategy on the gamingjuice.com. I took UConn down to -3.5. Took San Diego State up to plus 20.5. So UConn can win within that 4 to 20 point range, and we cover that. On top of that, the third leg, I took the under on 145.5, and that is even Steven plus 100 juice. As a result, UConn definitely has an enormous set of advantages in this game, and I know Jadon Ladie is going to go out there and get his, but I think, and this is more of a gut feeling than anything else, because UConn, you're right, far superior in so many statistical categories by comparison. I mean, they're top 16 nationally, EFG offense, EFG defense this month. Hey, look at San Diego State, number 272 in EFG offense and number 42, much more respectable in EFG defense. But this should be a lower possession game, which kind of favors the backdoor being wide open. And similar to what we saw against Northwestern, I mean, UConn got out to a massive lead, just kicked in the cruise control, and you saw the Wildcats in the alt-line market creep back in and score the cover and kept under 20 points. So I think it's going to be more of the same. And again, I just need that under to hit on that third leg, and that number singing 145.5.
Brad Evans, our good friend, joining us here, getting us ready for the Sweet 16. You can see him on television, live on the line on many affiliates across this country. He's got the little swag on there. Love it. TheGamingJuice.com and the Fade 5 podcast. He is everywhere you look. You can find him, and on Twitter at Noisy Huevos, and joins us on our progressive guest line. All right, let's get to the West region tomorrow. Alabama, North Carolina is the evening affair. Clemson, Arizona. Kind of keeping it simple here for the most part. You think both favorites take care of business?
Yeah, I do. And again, I think of the Alabama-North Carolina game, it's not going to be a blowout fashion. I love living in the middle on this one. I took Carolina on the money line. I took Alabama up at the alt spread market to plus 13.5. You can get that right now at plus 115. Significant juice as a result. Alabama's a team that wants to rev the engine. A lot of people expecting this game to maybe be like first 100 wins. I think this game is going to be played at a slower tempo than some people expect. Yeah, Alabama's number 15 in that category last 30 days, but North Carolina playing at a slower pace, but still at a high revving pace at number 76 during that same stretch. But Carolina's been outstanding defensively, shut the opposition down, particularly in and around the rim, because Armando Bacot is just deflecting shots left and right. At Alabama, their strength right now is scoring at the rim. They're only shooting like 29.7% this month from distance. So I don't think it's going to be as chaotic as we saw against Grand Canyon, but a game that I feel is going to be somewhere in the low 80s, but with Carolina getting the upper hand in the end. And then Arizona, I'm very confident. Whether you want to play the standard spread or if you want to investigate the SGP market, I did that. I took that line down to minus 3.5 and took the total down to 142.5 and hit the over on that little two-legger SGP to get it at plus money, plus 105 as a result. Arizona, I think, is just going to bully Clemson. Clemson, a team that likes to play slow. Arizona would love to rev the engine in that game. But Arizona, number 53 in EFG offense and number 57 in EFG defense here this month. Clemson, meanwhile, in those two categories, far down the ladder by comparison. Number 163 in EFG offense, number 132 in EFG defense. And the Arizona, too, with Johnson and Ballo down to the post, have a stark advantage in terms of waxing that glass, gentlemen. So put it all together, I think Arizona's going to win, and I think they're going to throttle Clemson here at the end.
All right, well, speaking of throttling, last time we saw Purdue, they did just that to Utah State. Now they get Gonzaga, a team that I think a lot of people are falling more and more in love with as the results come in. What do you make of what the Boilermakers got in front of them as 5.5-point favorites?
Man, I think Purdue, Pete, is going to be slamming home nails and those spikes on the rail line, guys. Look, I understand that they've already played this season. They played the Maui Invitational, and Purdue beat them by 10 points. I think it's going to be probably in the 7 to 9 point range when it's all said and done, so I'll lay the standard chalk on PU because they're going to be sweet smelling here in the end. It's all about Zach Edey. We know what he does. Generates a ton of second chance opportunities. A lot of those, easy tip ins or slam dunks home. But his reading, his recognizing of what defenses have done, collapsing on him with double or triple teams, he's been able to kick it out along the perimeter to Mason Gillis, Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, Lance Jones. Just keep naming off those guards. And those guys are drilling those opportunities. They are shooting at a blistering 44.3% clip here in the month of March from way downtown. I know the Zags are shooting at an even more blistering clip from outside at 47.3%. But they do not have the muscle in the post. As good as Graham EK is, and Big Greg has his moments as well, how the hell are they going to match up with Zach Edey? I'm not seeing it. So a guy that's built like a Shire horse, look it up, because I wrote about it in thegamingjuice.com. That's going to post tomorrow. The biggest horse breed there is, and he was born in the year of the horse. True story on Zach Edey. He will be the consummate difference maker in this one with that kick-out game, dropping times left and right. And maybe while I can still bet on it, I'll take the over on assists on Zach Edey as well, because those opportunities, according to the NCAA, are going to fall by the wayside here in short order.
Yeah, I was curious, Brad, your thoughts on some Zach Edey props, because he's been just hammering all of his props, and I was just pulling up what his rebound prop is. It's 12.5, and he has been attacking the boards here in this NCAA tournament. All right, let's slip one more in before we let you run Brad Evans here on a progressive guest line. Houston and Duke, what do you see here in the South Regional semifinal?
Yeah, similar to how I'm playing the North Carolina game, guys. Honestly, I'm going to live in the middle on this one. I got Houston on the money line. I would take Duke at plus 13.5. The Cougars are one of the most predictable teams in my estimation in this NCAA tournament field. They like to play at a sluggish pace. I know they had a high-scoring affair against Texas A&M. That was kind of out of body for them. But Duke also relishes a slower tempo. Both these teams own over the number 300 adjusted tempo here in the last 30 days. Both are playing outstanding defense. Duke has a stark advantage on the offensive glass because as good as the second-chance team as the Cougars are, they've been horrendous, 300-plus in defensive rebounding in the month of March. But I think the equalizers are going to cancel each other out, and I think this one's going to be in the single digits. So Houston on the money line, Duke at plus 13.5, and I put that together at plus 115. Gets the news. Buy that juice, gentlemen.
Meet you in the middle there. Let's hope for Houston 5-12. Somebody might have laid the 3.5.
Love it.
Yeah, that works for me. Brad, enjoy the games, my friend.
ILL. They're Tobel. They're gonna take it.
Go on, Tobel.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Baseball season starts tomorrow. Get ready for it. Start betting smarter and get a VSiN Pro annual sub today. You get your first year for less than $200 instead of the typical $240. Just use a promo code PRIME. You get VSiN Pro access to everything we do all year long. That includes our daily best bets and the leaderboard. See which VSiN experts hot. Betting splits with data from DraftKings, betting systems, premium analysis, and 24/7 video access. You can watch programs like VSiN Primetime, Go Lick and Go Jug, and more. Remember, use a promo code PRIME. Get your first year of VSiN Pro access for $199. Sign up today, VSiN.com/subscribe.
That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. It is VSiN Primetime. Always free. First hour of the program, youtube.com/VSiN Live. We are efforting to bring in our colleague, Mike Golick Jr. here. Some technical difficulties sometimes on that side of things. We do have, sadly, it's JVT cries a tear, couple postponements for opening day tomorrow. Milwaukee at New York, that would be the Mets, postponed. Atlanta at Philadelphia, postponed as well. So as of right now, LA at Baltimore would be your first game of the day at 3:05 Eastern time. If Philly's postponed, New York's postponed, doesn't seem ideal for Baltimore, but you never know.
Sounds like early showers, but should be cleared up by the time game time arrives. Maybe a slight delay, but all indications are that game will go off without a hitch, and the Orioles will start 0-1.
Corbin Burns going to throw a no-hitter against your Angels.
Those
More
two things cannot
baseball
happen at the same time.
Actually,
yeah, they can actually. Yeah.
More baseball previews for you in hour number 2. Mike Farron from MLB's some SiriusXM MLB Network will join us on the program. We'll get his thoughts on on, you want to do National League with him? Big picture? We can do whatever.
Of course.
National League best bets in our number 2 as well. We will get to our best bets. I guess while we're trying to effort Mike Golick Jr., we'll just do our best bets right now. I know on VSiN.com, JVT wrote up 3 best bets in a busy NBA slate here tonight. And one game starting at the top of the hour, Golden State at Orlando. Golden State getting the victory yesterday against a limited Miami team, no Jimmy Butler. So important one for them as they try to hold off the Houston Rockets for that final spot in the play-in. So let's start with Orlando and Golden State. What is your play in this one?
Yeah, this is all about the situation here for the Orlando Magic in the midst of an 8-game homestand that started 10 days ago and coming off of 3 days of rest. These situations are generally very hard to find in the NBA, and it's a very big one, especially when your opponent comes in, Tim. Of course, second leg of a back-to-back, third game in 4 days, all of those coming on the road. This is one where everybody I've talked to that handicaps the NBA is got the Magic here. So this could be awesome or it could go down in flames. But situationally, it's hard to ignore where Orlando is at here in this game. And it's not one you just scratch off and not try to take advantage of. So given the scheduling spot, it's going to be there. I also think when you look at the Orlando Magic, obviously a very good defensive team, 115.5 points per 100 possessions in non-garbage time allowed this month. Jalen Suggs capable of hounding Steph Curry all around the floor, of course. I think that when you just look at the matchup, the scheduling spot, everything like that, we're taking a shot here. So I laid 4.5. There's still, I think, quite a few 4.5
Marcus
out
down
there.
to 4.
Yeah, so the
Revoke
market's
that
pushing
sharp
back.
card.
Yeah, of course.
Take it away.
A half point's a very big deal. And, yeah, laid 4.5. So we'll see what the market's pushing back on here. But I have the Orlando Magic.
All right, Golden State at Orlando. Lay the 4 with the Orlando Magic. I have one play, but it's not tonight, so let's keep it rolling with you on NBA plays. Let's go also a game starting in the 7 o'clock Eastern hour, 7:40 Eastern. We head to the city of brotherly love. There will be no baseball game tomorrow. We will get to your Clippers-Philly play here in just a second as we bring in Mike Golick Jr., who joins us on our progressive guest line on the phone. Mike, always appreciate it, man. I want to start with just what you and your dad, I'm sure, have been talking about on Gojo and Golick, which you can catch 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time live on DraftKings Network, and then hear part of it here on VSiN from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. What have you made of the infatuation across the league with J.J. McCarthy? This has been a constant discussion. Who will go number 2 to Washington? It kind of seems like that's where ultimately the draft will start. Jaden Daniels, that is, still remains the favorite, but J.J. McCarthy creeping up. What do you make of this hype surrounding J.J. McCarthy right now and the true, at least from the betting market, steam on McCarthy to go number 2?
Yeah, I think clearly he's well-liked, at least enough by his head coach, Jim Harbaugh, who certainly, listen, we know Jim's well-acquainted around the league. He came out yesterday at the owners' meetings and said, you know, I've talked to a bunch of GMs and league personnel off the record, and they raved to me about J.J. McCarthy, and he's doing right by his guy. But I think in general, if I were to actually zero in on, hey, what would the real intrigue with a guy like J.J. McCarthy be? It's that in a league full of coaches, front office personnel, GMs, et cetera, who all believe they're better at their jobs than everybody else, he's the perfect kind of prospect to say, I can make the best out of what's, I think, a more malleable ball of clay than some of these other prospects here, just because we haven't seen him have to do as much as these other quarterbacks that are coming out with way more reps, especially as passers, that we can pour over, nitpick, try and find something wrong with, versus J.J. McCarthy, who's been a part of a ton of winning football, hasn't been asked to do a ton, but flashes great throws, great ability, and that stuff is catnip for these people.
All right, so having said all of that, Drake May's still going number 2, right?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, come on. This is all fun, and we're all going to do this stuff here. But, yeah, Drake May should absolutely, and I believe will be the second quarterback off the board here. We have gotten to overthinking faster than I can ever remember. But, yeah, no, Drake May is going to go second overall. He absolutely should. I've said for a long time it's 1A and 1B with him and Caleb Williams in this draft. Drake's got all the size. Drake's got similar athletic ability in terms of how he can escape, navigate the pocket, do all those things. He's got an incredible arm to do it. So, yeah, I think this is one of those don't overthink things. Drake May is going number 2.
Mike Golick Jr. joining us here on VSiN Primetime on our progressive guest line. You can catch him and his dad on Gojo and Golick every weekday morning on DraftKings Network, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern, and then also catch them on VSiN from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. We had a little technical difficulty, so we got you on the phone, but I did want to play this clip because it's pro day season, and today we saw a clip that everybody was drooling over from Joe Milton. So can we play the Joe Milton clip here, because this is very typical of this time of year. So here is Joe Milton at Pro Day throwing a football over a bunch of mountains. All right. Looks like we have a little. Oh, here we go. Are we gonna get it going? There we go. He drops back. JVT rolls out to his right. Very game-like here, and throws it a million yards in the air. So, Mike, I want to get your thoughts on this because, I remember when Joe Milton made his first start at Michigan, and there were beliefs. Oh, he did a backflip, too. There were beliefs that, this guy's got the intangibles of a Patrick Mahomes. Didn't work out at Michigan. He goes to Tennessee. Gets supplanted by Hendon Hooker, who almost wins the Heisman Trophy. So he's got a credible arm. You had some thoughts on social media regarding what Joe Milton can be. People in the NFL aren't going to fall for this, 80-yard cannon, are they?
Well, I think it depends on what we mean fall. I think we all need a nice level set. Joe Milton's fun as hell to watch. Cool arm, fun to see do the hard throw thing, throw a giant orange 100 yards, whatever he does. But, yeah, he's not going to go in the first round. We don't have to act crazy about this. He's going to be someone that teams take a flyer on, I'm sure, somewhere in the draft with all that talent for the same reasons that I mentioned with J.J. McCarthy. He just never had production that even closely rivaled that and played in an offense that's certainly a far cry from what you see in the NFL during his time at Tennessee this last year. So I think he's a fun set of tools that we can just marvel at the physical beauty of and then move on and understand, yeah, he's not going to be there. I like to do this, the eat this, not that, that bit that some dietitians will do, what people wanted to do with Joe Milton, let's do that with Spencer Rattler instead. Because I saw a little bit of Spencer Rattler revival going on the other day in the timeline and went back and popped in from South Carolina for a guy that's not as toolsy as Joe, certainly, but came in with all the hype and fanfare when he was at Oklahoma and played some really good ball without hardly any help last year at South Carolina, especially up front. Calm in the pocket, howitzer for an arm. I think where he goes is going to be a much more fascinating conversation in the draft.
All right, we only have about 45 seconds with you, so we'll end with this. What does Mike Golic Jr. dream about?
Mike Golic Jr. dreams about fat offensive linemen scoring beefy touchdowns in college football in the NFL. That's what he dreams about.
In all seriousness, do you like the new kickoff rules? How about that?
I do. Love the new kickoff rule. It makes it a viable play again, takes some of the actual violent trauma out of it. People are going to complain because that's what they do, but this is going to be awesome.
Mike, always appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, y'all.
There he is, Mike Golic Jr. joining us on our Progressive Guest Line. You can catch him and his dad each and every morning on DraftKings Network, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. All right, well, already one bet in the hopper for tonight. More of our best bets for tonight and a little Sweet 16 action as well. Join us for free, youtube.com/VSiN Live. That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. We're live here in Vegas. Come on back. Best bets for tonight.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
There's never been a better time to have skin in the game with DraftKings Sportsbook, because right now we have a VSiN exclusive offer for new DraftKings customers. Earn a $500 bonus bet for every $1,000 you wager. You can earn up to $2,500 worth of bonus bets in your first 3 days on DraftKings. Don't wait. Download the app now. Use code PRIME when you sign up and earn a $500 bonus bet for every $1,000 you wager now.
Howdy. For free. YouTube.com/VSiN Live every hour. First hour of the program. You can always hear us for free as well on VSiN.com/listen and on our many, many affiliates across this country. Watch us on YouTube TV. That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. Thanks to Mike Golic Jr. for joining us, as well as Brad Evans. Hour 2 We will be joined by Mike Farron of SiriusXM's NFL Radio and our guy, Thor Nystrom, to talk a little NFL draft. But let's return, Mr. Von Tobel, to our best bets. So you have already given out one. You're on the Magic, laying the 4 against the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I laid 4.5. Would also like to know to our audience, if you maybe haven't been paying attention, Jonathan Kuminga has been ruled out for Golden State. Trace Jackson Davis has been ruled in. So some swapping of some bodies in the front court there for Golden State.
All right, that game coming up at 7:10 Eastern Time, 4 pretty much across the market right now. Bunch of games in that 7 o'clock Eastern hour. We were about to get to this one, another best bet for you, before we were joined on the phone by Mike Golick Jr. So let's go to the Clippers and the Philadelphia 76ers. Right now, this game sits at Clippers -6.5 total. We'll call it 215. There's some 214.5s out there. What's your angle on Clips and Sixers?
Yeah, I don't think you want to ask the Clippers at this point to win by margin until they show you something defensively, right? Like, this is a team that over the last month has been very below average in the mid-20s in non-garbage time defensive efficiency. But, Tim, what they've done, which has made all of these losses, I think, somewhat poor, is that they're the 6th best offense still in the NBA over the course of the month of March. In the NBA for the season, they're still one of the better offenses. The shooting, I had mentioned this to you, for people who hadn't seen it since the All-Star break, they had regressed to one of the worst three-point shooting teams on wide-open looks or uncontested looks. That started to kind of find its level here. So the offense is operating at a pretty decent level. The defense just kind of stinks. So instead of asking this team, and by the way, the market's in on them here, open 5.5 or up to 6.5. Instead of asking them to win by this margin, I'm going to ask them to surpass their team total. It's pretty low, 110.5. Philadelphia, 23rd in non-garbage time defensive efficiency since losing Joel Embiid. They picked up the pace in that same time frame. Russell Westbrook is back, so that's going to help you pick up the pace a little bit here too. Clippers have actually slowed down post-All-Star break, but remember, they haven't had Russell Westbrook. Now that Westbrook is back out there, and we saw his effect in that Indiana Pacers game where it was just up and down the floor, a lot of transition possessions, getting up as quickly as he can, getting to the bucket. I think that's going to help pick this up as well. So overall, just asking the Clippers to have a successful offensive day instead of to win by margin, over 110.5 the team total here.
All right, we will run through the entire NBA slate. It's a loaded one later on in the show with JVT. But one more final bet for you. Let's go to an 8:10 Eastern. Pretty good one here. I believe this is on your card.
Yeah,
the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Houston Rockets. Why have we seen the big line move in this one?
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's not going to play.
Oh,
This is one where I laid 7, had misread a report in that I thought he was going to play. Ultimately, he's not. So we're down to -5, total of 226. Now, it is worth mentioning here in that the Houston Rockets with Alperen Şengün were here in Oklahoma City exactly a month ago, Tim, and they were catching 10.5 points, and they failed to cover. Now, that was with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the floor, but that was also with your best player on the floor, too. So we have clearly seen the market adjust on the Houston Rockets, and rightfully so. They've won 11 out of the last 12 games. They've covered 12 out of the last 13 games. But the way I put it in the article, too, if you want an example of what we're always talking about with market adjustments and the way that the market power rates team, look no further than this game right here. This is a team that was a 10.5-point underdog in Oklahoma City with their best player, yes, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they failed to cover that game too, by the way. Mm-hmm. And now here they are a month later playing a lot better, and we're at where we're at. So I think that's something to just kind of monitor. But I think overall, look, Oklahoma City Thunder, very reliant on Shai, and the Houston Rockets have everything to play for here, but still a very good and sound team. Shai is the only missing piece. I wouldn't be surprising for them to potentially come out here, still win by margin, still favored for a reason here against the Houston Rockets. And we have seen the market kind of creep up to the near peak for Houston. So very interested to see what the Thunder have without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But I laid 7 with a thought that, of course, Shai was going to play. Ultimately did not happen.
Last one. I don't know if it's a bet yet for you. You mentioned you were waiting on the injury report for this particular game, and we still have a couple hours before that tips off in Denver tonight. But a fun one, at least on paper. Denver Nuggets, Phoenix Suns. Of course, these two went head-to-head last year in the second round of the NBA playoffs. Suns were the only team to knock them off multiple times. You look at earlier this week, the Suns losing to a San Antonio Spurs team without Victor Wembanyama, 104-102, and it certainly looks like, I think Basketball Reference, I think I heard this mentioned, has them playing in the play-in tournament 91% chance.
I think they got 6 to 8% chance of making it to the playoff.
Yeah. Wild. So how it has turned here, they're 42-30. They're catching 7, some 7.5s out there. So Suns Nuggets late night game in Denver. Is this a spot you're looking to lay it with the Nuggets, or still waiting on the injury report?
It would be Denver a pass, but again, with a lot of these today, you're waiting for the injury report and some clarity, and for both sides too, by the way. Bradley Beal and Jusuf Nurkic are questionable for the Phoenix Suns. Of course, Jusuf Nurkic is literally and figuratively huge for the Phoenix Suns, because if he does not play, and look, nobody can contain Nikola Jokic, but he's the only real physical match that you have. The two former Denver Nuggets going at it, it's always a fun battle. He's the only real matchup you have for a guy like Nikola Jokic. So Jusuf Nurkic's presence is going to be massive. Now, Jokic is on the injury report as well, but he's probable. But the real names for this team are Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray, both listed as questionable. And, by the way, Michael Porter Jr. is on this report as well. He is ill, and he's probable. We'll take you back to yesterday, where Jimmy Butler was listed probable with an illness, and he ended up not playing. So, in other words, you've got 2 members of the starting 5 for the Phoenix Suns with a injury designation, both questionable. You've got 4 of the starting 5 for the Denver Nuggets with an injury designation, 2 of them questionable, 2 of them probable. So that's a lot of noise to sift through. If you get some information that somebody's going to play, worth jumping on. Again, everything equal, I think the side here is the Denver Nuggets, but you still got to wait to see what's going to happen, because you could have 2, maybe 3 members of the starting 5 that are out. And, of course, you don't want to be in a situation like I am right now or yesterday, right? Took 2.5 with Miami. Jimmy Butler gets ruled out. That thing closes 5. They don't win a cover. Late 7 with Oklahoma City. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets ruled out. That thing's down to 5. So always wait for the clarity. It's always worth it when it comes to, the points, because, you might lay like 8, but guess what? You'll know that Jamal Murray's going to be out there, and I think that's kind of worth it.
12 games in all tonight in the NBA. We'll hit on as many as we can, top of the hour. Also in the second hour, Thor Nystrom to discuss the latest movement with J.J. McCarthy in the betting market and a bunch of pro days. Jaden Daniels had his pro day today, and pretty much every team that you would anticipate was there to meet with Jaden Daniels. Patriots, Commanders, Giants, Vikings, Broncos, Raiders, etc. there to meet with Jaden Daniels. Couple other notes from me, and I'll give you a best bet here in just a moment. We do have 2 more NIT games tonight. Look,
Woo.
I'm not going to spend much time on it. I will say.
I mean, why? People want to bet it. Do it.
Both of those games were fun last night.
Yeah.
Indiana State and Cincinnati was actually a really good basketball game. Thankfully, Cincinnati was able to cover. They banked in a 3 there and held on for dear life to cover that game, 85-81. And earlier, the Georgia-Ohio State game, you had an outright dog there. So a lot of line movement here. Seton Hall, UNLV. What I'll mention here is I was going to give this out last night, JVT. I was like, I'll wait. And I bet it myself. I'm not going to give out a minus 165 money line parlay. But if you're looking for some action tonight, would you disagree with this? You could lay it. I think it's gone a little too far with Seton Hall, UNLV. I put UNLV with UConn in a money line parlay. As mentioned, that's out to like minus 165 now. This is brutal for UNLV. Yep. From a travel standpoint. You were at Boston College on a Saturday.
No, Princeton.
Princeton, excuse me. At Princeton on a Saturday. You came back home on, wait, no. Am I messing those days up?
Yeah, no, you went, Princeton,
Boston College, and now back to Seton Hall. Yeah. So I think
road home, and then road again.
A lot of movement there. They're dealing with some injuries. So I threw Seton Hall in a money line parlay with UConn. My bettable game right now, and we'll get to our confidence picks for the Sweet 16 a little bit later. As mentioned, already have Houston in the account. I do like the matchup there, and I'm going to go with Tennessee. Money line is minus 145. You could search around, get a minus 140 out there. I laid minus 145 in this particular game. I would think about laying 2.5, but would just feel a little bit more comfortable on the money line here. I don't think Creighton is going to be able to slow down Dalton Connect. I do think, I almost said Kincaid again. Dalton Connect, I think he's going to crush them in the mid-range. And I have a lot of questions about the physicality of this Creighton team. They're an elite shooting team. Can they get red hot from 3 like we saw in the first round against Akron? Absolutely. Could that torpedo this bet? Yes. A lot of people are out there saying that Rick Barnes, he stinks. He's no good. He's 4-16 ATS since 2010 in the NCAA tournament. All that is fair. I think defensively, offensively, I think Tennessee's the superior team here than Creighton. I think you get a little bit of shooting regression, a little more challenging to shoot, in my opinion, versus Tennessee team than Oregon was. I like Tennessee to win this game, minus 145 on the money line.